I'm Mugdha. On behalf of Dr. Dhawan Academy of Geologists, I welcome you all to the third edition of the DDAG chat show. Couple of days ago, on Sunday morning, a national calamity struck the Chamoli district in Uttarakhand. Huge floods in rivers Rishiganga and Dhauli Ganga, causing loss of human lives and also damaging two hydropower projects in their way. A commissioned 13.2 megawatt Rishiganga project and an under construction 520 megawatt Tapovan Vishnugad project. Today we have gathered here to discuss and understand this geological event. We have with us experts of this field, Dr. Balraj Joshi, formerly CMD NHPC. Hello, sir. Professor A.K. Jain from Earth Science Department of IIT Roorkee. Welcome, sir. Mr. Siddharth Swaroop, formerly Deputy Director General of Geological Survey of India. Hello, sir. Mr. N.K. Mathur, formerly Member Central Water Commission.
Namaskar.
Dr. Gopal Dhawan, formerly CMD MECL and ED NHPC, also head Dhawan Academy.
Hello,
we also have Mr. Yogendra Deva from DDAG, a veteran of field engineering geology and formerly voluntarily retired director of Geological Survey of India. He is one of the senior most practicing engineering geologists in India. He is playing anchor's role in today's talk show. On behalf of DDAG, I welcome all the experts and request Mr. Deva to please take the show further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukta. Thank you very much. Nice beginning. And at the outset, I must say that besides the rampant destruction, the unfortunate Dhauli Ganga deluge has brought in its wake another deluge. That is the deluge of information, comments, opinions, accusations, and whatnot. It's a pity that all these emerge as immediate reactions without access to the actual ground conditions, and if I may say so, without proper in-depth understanding of the issues involved. The discussions here today are by the who's who of earth sciences and the infrastructure industry in the country. And it is believed to bring forth the past, present, and future of assessment and management of natural hazards in infrastructure development. Before we proceed further, it may be understood that natural hazards like earthquakes, landslides, avalanches, tsunamis, cyclones, etc. have kept striking the civilization since beginning, and we are continuously struggling with coping up with the situation as and when they arise. In that way, the so-called glacial burst is no different. So coming to the agenda in hand and to set the ball rolling, I invite Professor A.K. Jain from IIT Roorkee to enlighten us on the catchment characteristics of the Dhauli Ganga Valley with a special reference to the sub-basin of the Rishiganga that happens to be at the center of the hue and cry. And before I hand over the stage to Professor Jain, I may just share a couple of pictures that will at least introduce you to what is what. I think I will share my screen. The picture is visible to you.
Yes.
And now, if you see on your extreme right, and if you can see my cursor, follow my cursor. This is the Rishiganga Valley, Rishiganga River, a small one, and this is the Reni village, which is now in news. Dhauli Ganga is coming from the upstream side like this. This is the confluence of Rishiganga with Dhauli Ganga. Then the Dhauli Ganga flows downstream, and we come to Tapovan, and this is the site of the NTPC barrage that Tapovan Vishnugad hydroelectric project, 520 megawatt. And after that, the river flows down, and near Joshimath, it joins Alaknanda. Alaknanda is coming from this side. This is the confluence of Dhauli Ganga with the Alaknanda, and then it flows downstream. If you see a larger picture of the catchments of both Dhauli Ganga, Rishiganga, and Alaknanda, you can say this is Joshimath. This is Alaknanda River. You can see part of the glaciated catchment here. This is the part of the glaciated catchment of Dhauli Ganga. This is also Dhauli Ganga, but this is the sub-basin of Rishiganga, which you can see in this part. We will be having a look in more details when we go to the experts here. And this is typically the rainy village, Dhauli Ganga here, Rishiganga, and this is a blow up of the sub-basin of Rishiganga, and you can very well see, I think, some of the well-developed glaciers, 1, 2, 3, then there are others, 4 is here, and there are 2 or 3 also you can see in this sub-basin. And with this introduction, I now hand over the stage to Professor Jain. Thank you very much.
Very much, Mr. Deva. May I have the visuals, please?
Yes, sir. Just a moment.
You can start from the same place where you left.
Yes, sir. Just a moment, I think. This is the first one I'm sharing with you.
Okay, visible.
It just takes a few minutes. Here it is. Can you see?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now this is the catchment area of Rishiganga Valley, where so many high mountains high peaks are located, and the most famous of this is the Nanda Devi peak, the famous Nanda Devi and Trishul. This river meets the Dhauli Ganga at Rainy Village, and this is a highway going to from Joshimath to Malari, which got damaged at Rainy. Next one, please. Now, if you see this catchment carefully, then one is struck by presence of numerous glacial lakes. The material which has caused the damage to the barrage are the material derived from this catchment, which are the rocks, the soil, the moraine material, that is the loose gravelly material, as well as the glacier material. Now, if one looks at these glaciers, this is the glacier coming from peak known as Rishi Par. One is struck by numerous glacier lakes which are located on the glacier as well as the moraine. This is the side moraine of the Rishi Ganga glacier. The same scene is visible on the next one, that is the Kanak glacier here. The next Google image. Now this is the 3D view, slightly oblique view, giving you a better picture of these glacial lakes here on both of these glaciers. Next one. Now this is the one coming from Trishul. Trishul is located to the south. Sorry, this is the Trishul, and I have tilted it so that this peak is seen here. And what is in news is that probably there is a slide here, avalanche from Trishul, which has caused this catastrophe. It could be so. Otherwise, we have to look into the bursting of numerous lakes because of some geological phenomena occurring on the other glaciers. This can only be confirmed after the field investigations, for which various teams are in the field, and very soon we will get a better picture of the phenomena which has taken place on those very unfortunate days, causing so much of havoc to life and property. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan sir. Now, I think I will turn to Mr. Siddharth Saru, who is, has been introduced. He is the Deputy Director General, retired from Geological Survey of India, and he is a glaciologist par excellence. And he has done lots of glaciological investigations in GSI. And if I'm not wrong, probably he has carried out work in this basin also, in the Dhauli Ganga basin. So I think, and particularly, I will like to ask him about what are the different scenarios which have led to such kind of deluge, debris-laden floods in the river, and if he has some personal opinion about what exactly should definitely be looked into when we are doing the hydrological surveys for hydropower and other infrastructure projects. Mr. Saru, please.
Thank you, Deva sir. I feel honored and privileged to be part of this expert panel. Well, let me first of all say something about the scenario in Rishiganga. It has about 52 glaciers as per the glacier inventory carried out by Geological Survey of India. Out of these 52 glaciers, 21 glaciers, that is about 40% of them are the mountain glaciers simple basin types. And about 9 glaciers are mountain glaciers niche types. That accounts for 30 glaciers in all out of 52, which are only mountain glaciers, not the valley glaciers. That poses a threat of the glaciers sliding down, that is hanging glaciers, niched on top, perched on top, and the valley is also very narrow. So with this narrow valley, there is more of threat because of the landslide, because of the avalanches, and also because of the glacial lake outburst. So as what we have witnessed 2 days back, this possibly has resulted on account of the glacier lake outburst, or it could have resulted because of the landslide coupled with the avalanche, consequential damming of the Rishiganga stream, and then breaching of that dam resulting into the flash floods in the target area. These two are the possibilities. Now, what could possibly be the reason for the landslide in the area? During winters, as I possibly think, there could be severe winters resulting into freezing and then consequent thawing of the snow, then breaking of the rock mass resulting into the landslides. I understand on 2nd or 3rd or 4th of this month, those higher reaches were possibly having less of snow because of the later snowfall in the area. It has got completely snow laden, and then consequent sliding of the rock mass as well as the avalanches. It has resulted into damming of the Rishiganga stream, and that has resulted into breaching because of the extensive load in that area, because of the pressure on the terminal moraines, and that has resulted into the flash floods. The other thing that I would like to say is that since the area is having more of mountain glaciers and threat, a possible study in the area wherever it is thought that we should take up the designing and installation of the power projects, if it is taken up with respect to the study in that area for estimating and assessing how much of the glacial debris, glacial till, loose boulders, gravel moraines, all these things are there. So we can identify the areas and then go for the remedial measures accordingly, like what engineering geologists normally do. So that would circumvent such type of threats in future. Now, I would like to add one more thing, IIRS also indicated that there is not much of glacial lakes, and that has possibly resulted because of the landslides in the area. Even some of the glaciologists, they see that although there are about 26 glacial lakes in Rishiganga basin, but in the instant case, that is just below Trishul and also the Nanda Gunti, there is possibly no glacial lake has been found as of now. But we cannot rule out the possibility of the glacial lake outburst, because glacial lake outburst floods are the major source for such type of devastations in the higher reaches. So what I personally feel is that parties from Geological Survey, they have already been identified and they would be going to the field. They would be carrying out detailed studies like other organizations are doing. And once the detailed studies, on-site studies are taken up, then the real cause for such type of devastation can be identified and the remedial measures can be taken up, or the precautionary measures can be taken up in future. Thank you, Devasam.
Thank you, Sarupji. Having heard about the catchment characteristics and the possible scenarios of this deluge which we have had in Dhauli Ganga, I think now it's time to turn to N.K. Mathur Saab, who is a stalwart from Central Water Commission. And as engineering geologists, we understand that while planning the projects, the hydrological surveys form the most integral part of the project planning. And in those hydrological surveys, GLOF is one of the major items, major issues, which is done. So I would like to understand for him that what exactly Central Water does in clearing the projects about these particular issues. Mathur Saab, please.
Thank you, sir. I will like to deal with this design aspects, but before that, I start from where my previous speakers have left. That is, the event has happened. After the event has happened, what happened after that? So first effect was that the Rishiganga project was washed. Only then we came to know that something has happened. Once that Rishiganga project was washed, the deluge of misinformation started. People started saying that Srinagar Dam will be washed and Rishikesh and Haridwar may have a big impact and may danger level may be risen and all those things. Even a ballpark calculation with I was just traveling, and even a ballpark calculation showed that this event, however big it may be, it cannot cross Srinagar Dam, and any effect on Rishikesh or Haridwar is just a imagination. But things start moving. So. So there is a very much need to have information systems in place where this event happens and some magnitude can be assessed. Second thing is that there is some geological phenomena, complex phenomena, some meteorological phenomena which has resulted into this event. Now, Central Water Commission has got so many monitoring stations on the path of these rivers. Joshimath is one of the important place where Central Water Commission observes the levels and also has got GND curves because it measures discharges also. So the preliminary estimate shows that water level rose by around 14 meters at Joshimath within some 10 or 20 minutes. The discharge at the peak level was of the order of 1700 cubic meters per second, and then this rise in water level dissipated almost in 2 hours only. So after 2 hours, although there was slightly more discharge, but the discharge went peacefully at a constant water level. So that way we calculated that we found that around 6 million cubic meter of volume came in this flood event at Joshimath. Now it is the postmortem of meteorological phenomena and glacial lakes to tally how much volume started from which lake and what happened to that. So that is the postmortem of the event which has happened. Coming back to the design and operation of infrastructures. When the dam sites or hydropower sites, which were easy and which were available in plains or on the gorges below the 2000 meter level, have been utilized, our focus went to the projects which are at very high level. And there are the events of snow, events of GLOF, events of avalanches, and so many other things. So naturally, we have to think about that what should be the design criteria, modification to cope up with that. We came out with a tentative design criteria modification that we should compute the glacial lake outburst flood, do its hydrodynamic routing up to the project site, and we add it to the design flood. And the new project should be designed for this combined effect with some modification here and there, some routing effect here and there, some relaxation of criteria, like there are some stringent BIS conditions that one gate must be always considered inoperative. So that can be relaxed. Some freeboard encroachment can be there as these events are rare. But all those things are there for the projects which are in operation. Rishiganga was the project where is in operation, but surely it was a very small project and it might not have catered for all those stringent criteria of GLOF and passing it PMF and everything. So Rishiganga project could have been victim of its short design for the flood. This event is that not only the flood is important, its impact because of the debris movement. None of the projects ever take into account the impact of the debris movement hitting the project. That is why the Rishiganga project, even with our better technology, might not have performed better than what it has done. But the effect of the projects which were under construction, now there it is a problem. We cannot have construction activities taking into account for a flood of this amount, an event of this, as it is not a very common event, and construction activities cannot be taken cannot be channeled to cater for this much risk. So there is an intense need of monitoring these type of lakes or landslide sites or all these type of places where something this big can happen in such a way that the project which is under construction gets the information well in time, and within that time available, they can evacuate at least the people from that site. So there is a need for intense monitoring of these glacial lake sites or landslide sites whenever there is a project under construction in that area. The infrastructure industry basically is victim. It is not cause of such failures.
Thank you, Madhu Saab. Thank you so much. It was a great brief on this. And now quickly, I will move on to Joshi Saab, who has got a rare combination of design and construction experience. And we would definitely like to know about what exactly happened in these structures, or what exactly is done to counter these threats by such things in this.
Thank you, Deva Saab, and I at the outset would thank DDAG for hosting this chat show. This is on a very important and concurrent subject. And as the subject is a very complex one, and people generally start relating the hydropower project, because that's the structure which has got affected now, with the event itself. So sometimes people say many things, as it was being said by the earlier speaker, the deluge of different information. People even start saying that Rishiganga project could have caused it. So this is very unfortunate situation, because the people who don't understand the things, and I think it's a very nice thing you have done, that through this medium we can tell people that this is not because of the projects, as you were discussing earlier, that whether they are victims or the villains. So I would just like to say, in the current context, that it depends upon whether a project is nicely designed and built, or it is not nicely designed or built. So it will be akin to saying that, in a situation when someone is driving and he throws off his car in a gorge, so we'll start blaming the gorge for it. I would say that the proof of the pudding is in eating. So let's see what happened, the events, how they unfolded. And as you would see in the end, the hydropower projects en route of this particular flood wave, they basically ameliorated the situation rather than accentuating it. So in the beginning, I would say that the Tapovan Vishnugad, which was the NTPC project, this was under construction. So no reservoir was built behind the project, as has been reported in some section of the press also, that this was a project which was completed. No, it was not. There was no water in the reservoir at all, which could have accentuated the flood wave. So Tapovan Vishnugad, if you can show that photograph, we can say that the barrage, even though it was under construction, the next one, please.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can see, but I think this is the panoramic view of the barrage. We can see the Dhauli Ganga river and the barrage itself. And next one, please. So as
this one, or which one you want?
The next one, please. Where we have the debris flowing over the barrage.
This one?
I'm seeing only the previous one. Nothing new is coming.
Okay, let me just give me a moment. I'll do it again. I think there is something wrong. These are the photographs I selected for you.
But I think there's a technical glitch. But anyway, the point which I was trying to make here is that there's an obstruction in the way of the flood wave, which is laden with silt also. And this particular structure, which is standing in the midst of the river, it stops the entire deluge, entire river full of sediment and silt is stopped there. Otherwise, this debris could have traveled downstream and caused a much, much wider damage. So in a way, even though Tapovan Vishnugad project was not completed, it was only partially done, but still it has actually played a slow role in stopping and ameliorating the situation which would have otherwise gone bad. Now let's talk of the Tehri project. Tehri is on Bhagirathi, but it's a large reservoir, and they stopped the generation at that time because they were apprehensive that, as Mr. Mathur said, that people were apprehending that a large, huge water is coming and Rishikesh will be washed away and all that. But the Tehri project took a proactive action and they stopped generation at that time, by virtue of which they stopped the entire flow of Bhagirathi, which could have otherwise joined the Alaknanda at Devprayag and caused some kind of damage on the downstream, if at all Alaknanda was that swollen, which finally we came to know it was not. But anyway, the point is that the Tehri project, which is a hydro project, large hydro project, and had been a very contentious project earlier, it checked the flow of Bhagirathi. So in the event, if the Alaknanda could have deluged the downstream, it did not add anything from Bhagirathi. Same thing was done by Srinagar project, which is on Alaknanda now. Srinagar project came to know much ahead of this, whenever this event occurred, messages were conveyed, and Srinagar project, they emptied the reservoir to MDDL level, slowly, of course, in a controlled fashion, and they were prepared to receive the flood wave which was coming from Alaknanda side. So had they not done it, probably the river would have, the flood would have passed downstream. But here we have a reservoir, however small it might be, but it certainly ameliorated the situation. So you can see, as I said, the proof of the pudding is in eating. So these three projects, they performed their role very meticulously and nicely. So why are we saying that, hydro projects are causing their, in the current case, they have ameliorated the situation. And I think Mr. Mathur has already explained that what we are doing now, since the GLOF phenomena and the climate change and the consequent global warming, etc., are known phenomena, are now respected phenomena. We have a Ministry for Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So we are very well claiming that this is happening, and therefore it is incumbent upon the government agencies like CWC to chart out the guidelines for planning of these projects, which they have done. In 2010, CWC has come out with a guideline for preparation of DPRs for such projects, wherein the GLOF has been really mentioned very nicely, and they say these studies have to be done. The only catch lies, as Mr. Mathur said, in monitoring of these lakes. And I'm happy that there are some projects in our country where the GLOF phenomenon was apprehended and regular monitoring is still being done. But the catch is that something abrupt like this, what happened, probably it will depend upon whether do you have time to really assess the situation and disseminate that information so that people can take necessary action. And it generally doesn't happen the month of February. At least we can say people are working, there's a working season for the hydro projects. So people are working their full might because they know the monsoon is going to come very, very soon. And they have deadlines to meet. So therefore, they were taken aback. Certainly, they were taken totally out of. They were not even expecting any rain or anything there. So that is the reason why so many people are missing, and which certainly is not a thing which anybody would like. And I would use this platform to pay my obeisance to those departed souls, and I pray that may God give them peace and strength to their family members. But the point here is that developmental works are ultimately going to go on, and we have to have guidelines, which we have. We need to follow them up and monitor these lakes. There are very many chances that there might be very, very small lakes and a chain reaction might have happened. I do not know, as Mr. Mathur said, that we have to really go into the genesis of the issue. There was, to my mind, it appears a possibility that there are small lakes which otherwise would not draw your attention while planning a project. They would get coalesced together by virtue of a landslide or a snow avalanche, and then creates the kind of volumes like 6 million cubic meters. So, which is not a very huge water, but considering the narrow valley, it can certainly lead to the flood which it has created. So, in my view, I think this GLOF potential assessment and the integration of the flood, GLOF flood into the design is already being done, and it must be maybe more streamlined. And monitoring of the lakes, glacial lakes, wherever we have that apprehension. ICI MOD has done a marvelous work for the Himalayan glaciers, and even GSI has a special wing for it. And additionally, what I would like to say, the public awareness. This is a must, that we must train people that even if the dam was not there, this GLOF would have occurred. Just imagine that Prayag was not there, Vishnugad was not there, so this would have occurred. But the people living on the banks, they must be made ready, made to know that this can actually happen with you, and you should take accordingly the planning of your own things, of your structures, of your shops, whatever establishments you want to have. Consider that this can happen. And thirdly, lastly, I would say that the sharing of detailed information of the project with an NDRF and SDRF is a must. Once we say that such eventualities and such calamities can happen, this would be certainly important that this data, including detailed engineering data, be shared with the NDRF and SDRF, so that at the time when the calamity occurs, they don't grow up in dark and they start asking questions to people where we have to go and where the people are trapped. So I think that was time I had with me. So I have just tried to finish. Thank you so much. Mr. Deva, you're on mute. Mr. Deva, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Joshi Saab. It has been a very revealing discourse by you on a number of aspects, I think, particularly allaying the fears of the common people that it is not the projects which are creating this. It is basically, I think, as which we have discussed it earlier also, these projects are also the victims of this thing as the common public is. Even if the project is not there, if this thing happens, they have to.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
This is it. Thank you very much for that. And now, last but not the least, we turn over to Dr. Dhawan, who I consider as the most renowned and the leading engineering geologist in the country, and of course, the chairman of the DDAG, Dhawan Academy. So I would now like him to conclude, I think, basically, I mean, taking one step further, what exactly he would like to conclude as the way forward for the projects. Many things are being done in design part, but some new aspects have come today, particularly the monitoring of live monitoring of glacial lakes, basically. So, Dr. Dhawan, please, I'm all eager to hear you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deva. In fact, my previous speakers have made my job very easy. Each one of them has suggested some point, very valuable point for the way forward, for our future planning. But you see, I see this tragedy as an opportunity. The nature has given us a new challenge of understanding its mysteries at the behest of this tragedy. The experts, particularly geologists, hydrogeologists, hydrologists, glaciologists, and other experts who are working for infrastructure projects, need to evolve from the lessons learned at the aftermath of the recent damage due to this avalanche and its follow-up events. As Mr. Mathur explained, that this is a very complex thing. Somebody says this is a GLOF, other person says it might be a combination of a slide or avalanche. There's a combination of things, and I think only we will come to know it after some serious research is done by GSI and other agencies. You have asked me to suggest a way forward for the future. I will suggest a three-pronged approach to deal with such eventualities in future. Firstly, we need to address the geotechnical challenges associated with infrastructure projects in the higher Himalayas. We need to understand geology and glaciology both, and the deadly concoction, which has now come to our notice through this tragedy or event. In my view, it should be made mandatory to map the entire catchment upstream of the projects, particularly in the higher reaches. We normally conduct our detailed geological surveys in and around the projects. But I think entire catchment from which it is drawing water is very important for us. It will help us in understanding the impact of glacier and movements of avalanches. As Mr. Mathur has suggested, in addition to hydrology, we should provide complete glacial data. Mr. Joshi also said that there are CWC guidelines. So in the DPR, we should give complete data related to glaciers and an action plan that how we are going to monitor them once we start construction and even after the project is commissioned. Mr. Mathur has further suggested for the real-time monitoring of glacier movements around the projects. In my view, we should take proactive actions in this regard. Then we must address the design challenges. Mr. Joshi has hinted about it. And particularly the protection of dams, barrages, and other infrastructure projects. We must plan that how we are going to protect them in case such unprecedented flash floods, avalanches, or glacial outbursts takes place. Finally, I should say that there is a need for the improvement in the disaster management also. Although there had been a tremendous improvement during the last decade, NDRF is doing a wonderful job. We must compliment them for the lives they have saved during this tragedy. But there should be an effective containment of the tragedy by limiting destructions in the downstream areas. A comprehensive strategy has to be planned. And we should make some arrangements of the joint training of NDRF and the workers who are working at the hydropower projects. And as Mr. Joshi said, that we must share complete technical details of these projects in advance. And they should know that what is the layout of the tunnels, where the shafts have been bored, where the adits are located. So all these things are where we should do some kind of a safety drill with these agencies even during the normal times. And we should not forget the sacrifice of the workers who have laid their lives. They are the warriors, and we should remember that their sacrifice is very precious for us. And if we remember it, we will certainly take our mission to a right conclusion and work with a determination to minimize the impact of such natural calamities in future. Thank you very much, Mr. Deva. I think now you can proceed further with your closing comments.
Thank you, Dhawan Saab. It has been a pleasure, as always, hearing your views. And I think my job is also very easy now because everything has been well discussed and well concluded. I can only add one thing, that the bottom line of the discussion is basically that hydropower projects in the country are in fact the victims of such natural hazards rather than being the cause for them, the village. They are not. And moreover, we have to understand one thing, that we go for the renewable energy, which is very important for the country. And unfortunately, despite having a vast resource of power potential in the country, we have hardly, I think, harnessed very little bit of it. So I think there is a need to go for the hydropower projects. They are not doing any damage to the environment as is generally thought by the public. So let's, let the government see that how we can go ahead with renewable energy along with solar and this wind energy. So thank you very much once again. And thank you, gentlemen, for being so elaborate and so informative. I think we have heard a lot about all the aspects of what has happened and what exactly is to be done. And my sincere thanks to our hostess, Mugdha also. She has done a good job as usual. And now hand it over to her to close the program. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Mugdha.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I thank all the experts for sparing their valuable time. Let us pray that people of Uttarakhand get over this calamity as soon as possible. At DDAG, we'll be coming up with several such chat shows on current affairs in the field of geoengineering, so stay tuned. And if you want to watch the previous episodes of DDAG chat show, you can watch them on YouTube channel of Dhawan Academy. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching. Take care. Namaste.